Got it.
Okay. Thanks for doing this, Judge. I thought of you when the station asked me to do this today.
Well, you
And
know what? I had posted a link on my social media a couple days ago after giving, and I was requesting people not only on my Facebook but my Instagram to give. And what I've noticed is that I think I just checked this morning. It's up to almost 23,000.
what was the post you put out? What's your message? What did you say?
And I was just asking them if they could please give to this, to this young lady. As a matter of fact, it's because I post all the time. It's it was okay. It says, please donate. Young lady and her 2 kids died from hypothermia and her surviving daughter's in a hospital. Mental health matters.
So you're a
I
busy
posted
person.
that
You were
a
aware
day
of this news.
ago. And guess what? Based on my little post, 3,611 impressions and 3,583 people were reached. There were 7 shares. And, I'm just saying, as a community, we're up to $23,294.
That's a GoFundMe to help the little girl.
Yes.
So you were aware. I mean, you're a busy person. People are busy. When did you become aware that a mom and her 2 kids froze to death?
Well, I was reading the newspaper and I was like, wow, as a matter of fact, this is how much the media is invested. They ran that story twice. Pontiac mom and 2 children died, and the daughter was left. You normally see a one-day story maybe on some things. I was saying, wow, this is the second time I saw it. And when I read the article for the second day, it had the GoFundMe. And I felt that it was incumbent to share that to my social media. Got like 65,000 on Facebook and maybe another 50 on Instagram to get the community involved to show their support financially, to support this young lady, this young child that is now left without a mom and 2 brothers. And from my understanding, her dad had died, I believe, 2021 from gun violence.
I've been working all week. I have not done this particular case. I was horrified. What was your reaction to this?
Saddened, because from everything that I've read, from the mother's account, her mother's account, family and friends, this was a young woman who loved her family. I mean, this wasn't a situation of a neglectful mom. This was a situation where she just fell on some bad times, okay? And, her Monica Kennedy. And basically, she had a psychiatric breakdown, and nobody knew it. She went to her mother's home. The children were not properly clothed with the appropriate winter jackets for these elements. And from there, by the time the mother tried to assist her, she left. There were different people in the community that were calling the police about this. But this is the challenge here legally. Number one, we have seen so many accounts of mental health crisis in the community. From my understanding, I believe in Detroit alone, it's a 5,000 that that they respond to. I want to even say a month or something like that. It's something considerable. Then you have the number of police encounters with people who are having a mental health crisis. So now, unfortunately, the police feel, well, if it's not something that I'm able to visibly see, okay, and account for, then what happens in most of those situations is that it falls between the cracks, i.e., a mother's account. In this particular situation, Miss Kennedy's mother, people in the neighborhood's accounts was insufficient. By the time that they tried to get to these locations, she was gone. Okay. And so were the children. And so that makes it very, very challenging because now the police are concerned. Can I lose my job? Can I lose my life? And so their uh, approach is very, very guarded in how they treat these encounters because they don't want to lose their job and they don't want to lose their lives. And so as a result, many times, when people have beloved ones who do have these type of challenges, if the police are not able to make a determination that this person is a visible danger to themselves or others, they can't do anything.
Let me ask you, so help educate us in the public, because this is a horrible case where we can learn from it. What can a family member do legally? Can they step in? What can they do within the court system?
Well, that's the challenging part because most often than not, and I mean, in this particular situation, this is a younger woman that this occurred, probably no history whatsoever of any breakdown. Happens when she gets older, okay, which these type of situations can happen with women in their late 20s, early 30s, men mid 20s. So you can have a lifetime, everything is wonderful. She held a job, she was a mom, no, nothing. But when they began to see things like that, they have to be able to, you try to call the police, but the police are like this. If we don't see that that person is a danger to themselves or others, we can't voluntarily take them into custody. You can always do an intervention, which is sometimes trying to get mental health individuals involved early on at the onset of this particular situation. But the problem is one of that individual wanting to seek help. And the problem with it is that in most communities, it is very challenging for people to want to say, listen, I think I need some help. You know what I'm saying? We go women check our breasts every month. I mean, every year we do our mammogram. We have to do that. We've educated, but we don't look at it as a stigma. Many times when people seek mental health treatment, it's looked at as a stigma. There's something wrong with you. You got to be careful that that person doesn't harm you. We give them very bad labels. And as a result, many people suffer in silence, not looking at the warning signs. We've been educated.
Judge, if this is a loved one, can a family member go to the court system? Can the family go to, let me rephrase that a different way. Can a family member go to the courts looking for help for their loved one?
You can try to petition the court, but here's the problem. That judicial official or the police, has to determine that that person is a threat to themselves or others. And many times, maybe the episode may have gone over and they can't find it. It's very challenging from what I've been told by members who practice in probate to have a person involuntary committed. More often than not, the people, at least when I was a judge, that we saw that were, assessed were because they had committed a crime. But for the crime, they wouldn't get the treatment that they needed.
So if this, okay, let me ask
one thing I want to say
I don't want to forget this though, Judge.
But one thing I do want to say is this, and I'm not trying to, we put money in everything, but we don't put money in mental health. And Sheriff Bouchard was saying in that particular article in Pontiac, we've got to get the legislatures involved and say, listen, we have to have money allocated to mental health treatment. Many times people, even if they're assessed, they can't even get the medicine necessary because it's so expensive. So the issue then becomes one of funding. Right now, we do not have many organizations that were able to help middle to lower class people be able to get mental health treatment. And wait a minute, you ready? If you're over the age of 18, okay, and you don't qualify for Obamacare or something, you don't have insurance to get to treatment. So where are the facilities that we need? They're not in the community. And unfortunately, the judicial system is bearing the brunt of it because we're waiting, unfortunately, till someone does a violent act or a property act in order to get treatment. We need facilities to be open and funded by the community. And we need to stop putting so much money in maybe war things and start investing in our own people and our own community with mental health.
Is probate court an option?
It is. The threshold is so high to be able to show an involuntary committal that many times it's just not successful. But if we had facilities open in the community where a person could just go themselves, maybe they were not insured or underinsured, but somehow they were able to get the treatment that they needed, I believe that we would not see as many episodes occurring, but we don't have the facilities that are open to them.
That said, we know the reality. If you have a family member in crisis, what's the first thing right now that that family member could or should do?
Well, the thing about it is that if in her situation, and I'm looking at Miss Kennedy's situation, she comes to the door with herself and her children, and she doesn't have proper clothing, and her mother was concerned about it. By the time she had her to come in and probably said that she was calling the police, the young lady left.
So is it a call to 911? Is it you try to convince them to go to treatment, to get into a crisis center with you?
I think that what you need to do, the first step, the very first step, is family intervention. Just to be able to say, listen, you know what? We need to have a talk. You understand what I'm saying? And sometimes when you're not feeling the best physically or mentally, we need to be able to talk about it. Don't be accusatory toward your loved ones. Don't pressure them into treatment. Just talk about it. Have open dialogue. When a person feels that they're not being cornered and that there's open dialogue, they're more receptive to listening and to considering your point of view than when you go to the extreme and have to involve the police or the court.
Are there any laws on the books that could help a family member help their family member who's in crisis?
Unfortunately, the laws that are on the books are for people who have committed a crime and those individuals who have been deemed to be a danger to themselves or others. Somebody armed with a knife, somebody armed with a gun, somebody, doing something more that, and now the police have said, hey, we got to see it. So it's very, very challenging. But what I would say to many family members, open dialogue is the best. Not accusatory dialogue, but open dialogue, just to talk about what's going on, your situation, and what they think could be done. And a lot of times, I think that it helps.
What would you do
in a situation like that? Well, listen, let me tell you something. You got to have open dialogue. And what we need to be able to do is have more forums on TV with psychologists, with psychiatrists. How do you go about dealing with an issue if you have a family member? I'm not equipped. That's not my area. And like most moms and dads, they don't know. They only see that their children may be being erratic and they don't know. But we need to have programs like when you all are on the different channels and different things, and you have psychiatrists and have psychologists to come on, and they can say, this is how you need to approach it. I think that if there's more communication in the media, I think that we would do better.
Love you. Love talking to you, Judge.